Okay, I'm sat here with Dr. Alex Norman from the University of Sydney, who's just given a paper and is feeling relaxed after having presented on spiritual tourism. What's all that about, Alex?
Well, spiritual tourism is when, if you can imagine somebody on a gap year, going to India and maybe spending some time in an ashram, or going and doing a meditation retreat, going and doing some yoga, maybe going on a pilgrimage. So doing that kind of stuff, but when they're not a part of that tradition. So they're going and doing some yoga, but they're not Hindu, going and doing some meditation, but they're not Buddhist.
So they're a tourist in both senses, in that they're travelling somewhere for a kind of leisure experience, but they're also tourism in terms of a tourist in terms of the tradition. They're kind of incomer to it.
Yeah, and so you get this idea of the seeker within religious studies, this person who's looking for some kinds of new religious ideas with which to make meaning in their life. So yeah, in that respect, they're kind of travelling to India to taste new religions.
So could you use reasonably the idea of a kind of global marketplace, and these people are looking, they're disenchanted with the tradition they were kind of born with, and they're kind of shopping around? Is that fair?
Yeah, well, we call it the spiritual supermarket sometimes. And,
they're taking their basket on a long journey.
Yeah, a really long journey, yeah. But the spiritual supermarket has some kind of use for us as a concept. Yeah. Because in places like the UK and Australia now, we do have a massive range of religious or spiritual ideas that we can choose from. And so people, because they have that choice, and because we orient our lives in terms of choice, if we can't choose, we don't see ourselves as free or as participants in society, and that is reflected religiously as well. We like to be able to choose, and so when we travel, we like to be able to choose from lots of different religious ideas.
And given that most European and presumably Australian cities have already quite a big multicultural and multi-ethnic and multi-religious setting, if I want to go and try out some yoga or some meditation, I can do that in Cheltenham, where I live, quite happily. I can find almost anything, even in a small town like that. Why would I go to somewhere else? Why would I become a tourist in that sense for it?
Well, there's a real sense of authenticity that if you want to do yoga, you go to the place where yoga comes from, which is India. If you want to do meditation, you go to where meditation comes from. And so, although that's a little bit false, in the sense of there's no kind of distinction in authenticity between the yoga that somebody teaches in Cheltenham and the yoga that somebody teaches in Rishikesh in India. There's a sense for the tourist that it's more authentic because it's in its home.
Yeah, and I suppose people want to pair their kind of inner journey with an outer journey. It's kind of sense of travel. Yeah. And we like travelling.
We do like travelling, and also there's this idea that it must be good if we've spent thousands of pounds, used up all of our holiday time. The fact that it's a consumer act as well makes it more meaningful for people.
So there's a sense that as a kind of, we like buying things that are expensive, that have a perception of quality and, as you put it, authenticity. Yeah. But I suppose also the idea of a journey is that you go away and come back somebody different, rather than going to town and go to this session. It's not
and then
very
go to the
interesting.
pub afterwards.
Yeah, that's no good. That's not meditation. Whereas if you go properly, you can't go to the pub with your mates afterwards.
No, you go to the vegetarian restaurant up the road.
Yeah, I guess, with the people who went on the course with you. I guess there's something around, which we might have a chance to really talk about now, about the fact that people get to meet other like-minded people on them as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of, that if you go on a meditation retreat or a yoga holiday in kind of India, you will meet people who are sympathetic.
Yeah, everyone else is there for the same reason, essentially. And often there for the same periods of time. And the demographics, it's wide, but you'll get a dozen people on their gap year, half a dozen maybe in retirement, something like that. So there are definitely going to be people that in a sense there. So it's a familiar environment in an unfamiliar setting, which you think of as authentic, and that you have conceptualized as worthwhile because you've pushed all of this money and time into it.
So it's very compelling kind of sales pitch as it were.
Yeah, it's worth spending money on in that respect.
Yeah.
A religious kind of business.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah.
Launched a spiritual travel agent.
Yeah. What is the saying? If you want to have fun, you join a cult. But if you want to make money, you start a cult.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that note, I think, thank you very much.